the Know, Grow, Go podcast. I'm Matt Jordan. I'm the senior pastor here at First Methodist Church Enterprise. And we just got back. We're recording this a little later than normal. We just got back at 4:30 a.m. on Thursday into Enterprise city limits. And while it's fresh on our minds, I wanted to share about our trip to Honduras with Lunches for Learning. Before I do so, make sure that you click subscribe, share, and make sure that you comment on the post as well, so we can hear from you, because we want to hear from you, what you enjoy, what you want to talk about, what you want to know about, what guests you might want on. And listen, I know that we all want to have a celebrity guest on here on our podcast, but keep in mind, we don't pay people to be our guest, so keep it reasonable as well. Like, think about like local, your fifth grade science teacher, your grandmother's pastor, that sort of thing. Okay. John Piper is not coming over here. The president of Asbury Seminary is not coming on our podcast. So just keep that in mind, right? A couple of things I want to share with you today about Honduras is what we were doing there with Lunches for Learning and why we kept it such a tight group. Because I know for some folks, it probably took you by surprise that we went to Honduras with just 4 people, myself and 3 others, and why that is and what we learned. So first, Lunches for Learning is a program that we heard about last year. I heard it first at Enterprise Rotary Club. Mindy Collier, one of our members, is a part of Rotary as well, and had the chance to hear from Phil Dodson, who is their executive director. And he told a story about their founder, Ron Hicks, who's from Montgomery. He's a Rotarian. He's a Lutheran. He's passed away now, so Phil's the executive director. But when Ron retired from work, he decided to take a motorcycle trip down CA1, Central America Highway 1. Had a motorcycle flown to Brownsville, Texas, hopped on it, and drove the entire length of Central America. And he comes to the El Salvador-Honduras border, which we had the chance to go and see this past week. And we drove around customs, didn't cross the border line at El Salvador, but we were very, very close the whole week to El Salvador, closer than I was aware of. But we got to see exactly where this encounter I'm explaining happened. Ron came in on his motorcycle, crossing El Salvador into Honduras. He was going through customs, and there was a little girl begging for food, just begging for food. And it was shocking to him because it was in the middle of the day. She should be in school. She was not a small child, but she was definitely school-aged, and she should have been in school. But she was starving. Her hair was rusty color, which is often a sign of malnutrition, and she was just begging for money. And Ron finished his trip, and it was so impactful for him that he decided to go back, this time renting a truck and going in and found that same girl in the same spot at the El Salvador-Honduras border crossing off of CA1. And he had her take him to his school and his family and all these things. And he realized that so many of the children there were starving and not able to get an education because they weren't able to eat at school. And they couldn't send food. What we learned is that many of these children, and through Ron's experience and his story, and through what we have seen this past week, many of these children, the only meal a day that they eat without Lunches for Learning is a tortilla, one tortilla, and a cup of coffee, and that'd be their meal for the whole day. That's about all that they would eat. What we learned is Honduras is not so much different than our own world, that those that are closer in the city limits, closer to major highways, schools that are in areas of higher populations, that they often have more resources. There's more money going into them. Government pays more attention to them. But the schools that we went to, that Lunches for Learning supports predominantly, are deep into the mountains of rural Honduras, a town called Nacaome, and there are a couple other towns that we visited as well. They currently cover 46 schools, which is the equivalent to about 2,000 children in Honduras. And here's kind of how things work. They go to 9th grade. 9th grade is a full kindergarten through high school experience for them. After 9th grade, they go to university or they go to work. And 7th, 8th, and 9th grade is not free. You have to pay for that or have some type of fiscal buy-in, if you will. There's a project your family has to do for the school or something that you have to do for the school. And so it's not always affordable. So most children go through sixth grade, which is free through the Honduras government. But these children, when they can't eat and they're trying to also walk to school, we met one girl that walks 5 kilometers one way to school, that what they do is they go to work. They try to find jobs, try to find work. Well, if you're, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, trying to go to work, you're not getting a high-paying job. And you never get that opportunity because you age out of being able to go to school and get an education and those sorts of things. And so these children, if they don't eat, they work, because if they don't eat, they're not able to go to school. And so what Lunches for Learning has found is that by providing lunch at school, the children come to school to learn and to eat. So they're coming to eat, they're getting their bellies full, they're getting loved on by teachers, they're learning and teaching, and they're able to have better opportunities. For example, if a student is able to go all the way through ninth grade, which some were, we pass a few schools that would be the equivalent of a high school, even deep into the mountains. And if they finish ninth grade, then they can go into law enforcement, which is a well-paying career in Honduras. They can go into the military, another well-paying career. They can also go from there to university and obtain a teacher's license, which is another good career in Honduras because the government pays for that. And so there are more opportunities for better paying jobs and better opportunities if they're able to stay in school. And so Lunches for Learning has made this their goal, right, to provide food for these children so they can stay in school and learn. And I tell you what, we got to witness so many things, but the reason that we went was not just to see what Lunches for Learning is doing, but because when Phil Dodson came and spoke to our church last year, our church was so moved that just in the love offering we gave, we were able to bring a school into the program. And then when we were discussing our 2025 budget and we were trying to fine-tune our missions budget to say, let's not just put a general number out there. Let's be specific. What are our missions going to be? We decided as a church and voted as a church-wide decision to support 2 schools through Lunches for Learning. And what that means is that there are now 2 schools in the outskirts of Nacaome, and we drove to both of them. And let me tell you something, we were in Mitsubishi standard shift 4-wheel drives, and we were rock crawling at one point to get to a school. They were deep into the mountains. And we got to see the schools that we sponsor. We're going to have pictures, hopefully pretty soon on our social media page. We didn't take any pictures at the schools with our phones. We were interacting with the children, interacting with the principals, some of the Lunches for Learning staff who live in Honduras. We're taking photos of us and those sorts of things for their albums, and they're going to share those with us. But they have a sign at both of the schools that say that First Methodist Church of Enterprise supports this school, that sponsors this school. And now we got to be there when they unveiled the sign that have the church logo on each one of those signs as well. And so they know who we are. They know our church. And I want to tell you this. One of the schools that we sponsor as a church, for 5 years, they've been on the waiting list. 5 years. And being on the waiting list seems like a strange concept when you're trying to feed hungry children. But Lunches for Learning has extremely limited resources. Without sponsors like us, without sponsors like Enterprise Rotary Club or other churches, most of the supporters of Lunches for Learning, from what Phil has expressed to me, are our churches. And without them, they're not able to do this. And so they have to make sure that they have the resources to support a school and not set them up for failure and break that trust. But they have been on the waiting list for 5 years, and through some extra giving of other people, they were able to bring a school in, and they had only been in the program for 2 months, and they weren't sure of their future in the program until our church stepped up to sponsor them. Now those children are able to eat and be fed and learn through their entire time through 6th grade and more if they would like, because of you, because of our church's support. The other school we visited was way on up in the mountains. I mean, way deep in there. And matter of fact, I didn't see a house really nearby the school. And they, until our church sponsored them, they had 0 food. And the teachers told us that most of the kids ate a tortilla and a cup of coffee every day if they were lucky. 1 meal a day. That's all they had. One small corn tortilla and a cup of black coffee. We got to see and taste some of the food that they get to eat. And we got to eat some bean soup. We got to eat some, I forgot what the name of it was, but it was a fried tortilla stuffed with rice, all homemade and all cooked on a open flame concrete stove where they take sticks and start a fire, push the sticks in to get hotter and pull it out to get colder. And let me tell you something. That's like Granny cooked it, okay? That is the best food that I ate the whole time that we were down there. It was just so fresh and delicious and homemade. It was just wonderful. And the kids get to eat that. So most of the kids, the only meal they eat all day is at school. That's the only thing they get. And Lunches for Learning does not limit them to only one meal per child. They can come and eat as much as they would want until the food comes out. So everybody gets served once, then everybody can come back for seconds. And it is such a beautiful thing to see. And the children were so welcoming to us. They came and they hugged us around our knees. The first school we went to, they lined up on the side of the entryway and gave us thanks and talked to us as we came in. Mike Kranick and I had the chance to play some soccer with the kids, and it was just a great experience to see all of those things. And it part of the greatest experience, and it was in the first school, we had a chance to pray with the children, and I led them in the Lord's Prayer, and they responded in Spanish, which is pretty neat because I don't speak Spanish. And another thing that was really cool was one of the last schools that we visited on Tuesday. We visited probably 6 or 7 schools throughout the week that we were, the few days that we were there. And their school day is only 7:30 to 12, but we managed to get to one school while they were teaching. And we got to see, if Hannah Moore's watching this, we got to see one teacher teaching them how to do geometry and find the total area of a circle. And the teacher drew a circle, gave the radius at 10 centimeters, and drew another circle and gave the diameter. I don't remember what the number was. And he just walked over. He handed an expo marker to 2 students, and they got up and they did the problem, figured it out, wrote it out, got the answer right, and were done. And those students were 5th and 6th graders. 5th and 6th graders learning geometry. Now, where I grew up, that wasn't an opportunity till you were in high school, and I know sometimes that's middle school or advanced track, but 5th and 6th graders were learning that. That was the oldest kids in the class. And the way those classrooms worked were so neat. Most of them had one teacher, sometimes 2 if it was a larger school, but they would section off the desk, and it would almost look like a quadrant. So they would have, kindergarten through 2nd grade here. They would have 3rd and 4th here, 5th and 6th here. And the teacher would teach the curriculum for this age group, give them an assignment, teach the curriculum for this age group, give them an assignment, teach a curriculum for this age group, give them an assignment, and start back over again. And in the classroom, one classroom we visited with 2 teachers, they broke it up even more than that because they had more students and did the same thing. They gave age-appropriate assignments for this one group, and then for this group and for this group, and gave instruction for each one, and then came back and did it again. It was so impressive to see. I was telling Mike and Mindy and Phil yesterday when we were sitting in Miami-Dade that I was getting confused because all the terminals were together, and I couldn't figure out what group they were calling to board because D1, 2, 3, and 4 all had the same desk. And but these kids sit in a classroom with nothing but an expo marker and a teacher, an old wooden desk, and are able to do this. No calculators were seen, no computers, no Google Drive, no nothing, because they were so eager to learn. And one girl at one of the schools we met, she was so excited to come up and thank us in English. She's been working with Duolingo to learn English to provide some better opportunities for her in the future. And she was so excited to be able to come and speak to Americans and tell us thank you. And the teachers and principals of the schools just hugged on us and loved us because of your support. Because these schools, they did not have food. These children did not eat until our church supported and brought them into the program. We saw one child at each school that we went to whose hair you could see was beginning to change from a rusty, malnourished color, something a dark brown. One student I remember, I didn't catch his name, but he was a young boy. He would isolate himself quite a bit. and you could tell he was new to the school as a younger child, and his hair was that rusty brown color. And they had told us that he was new to the school and new to the program, and it was so empowering and heartbreaking at the same time to see how the mission of our church to transform the world with the good news of Jesus is being done through what we do here and how it affects someone 1,200 miles away in the mountainsides of Nacaome, Honduras, because of your support. So I pray that you'll continue to support that mission of the church. And there's going to be opportunities as well for our church to go above and beyond our budgeted giving for Lunches for Learning. For example, the 2 schools we went to both need kitchens. They've got buildings. One of them is an old dorm for a teacher built many, many years ago that could be converted into a kitchen. And the other one is an old kitchen that is dilapidated. And you say, well, Matt, why is that important? Well, one, the amount of money that we commit to support the 2 schools only pays for the rice, the corn, the milk, and the sugar that they put in the milk as well to get kids to drink it, and the vitamins. They each get a vitamin a day. And so for the amount that we pay, and the budget is $5,000, $2,500 per school per year, feeds them every single day for the school year, which is somewhere around 30 to 80 kids, maybe more. And these schools, what they do is they have a list and a schedule of mothers who take so much corn, so much sugar, and they have it measured out because they're only given so much to last for a month. And they dilute because they're so far out. It takes their team 7 days to deliver all the food through the mountains to the schools, and they do that twice a month. And as they go and deliver the food, when it's that Mother's Day to cook, she takes her food, she goes home, she cooks it, and she brings it back. One mother, it takes over an hour and a half one way for her to get there on foot. So sometimes the teachers will drive her to her house. So part of it's a safety thing, right? If it can be cooked in that kitchen at the school, then it can be served hotter and prepared better and used to appropriately store the food and all those sorts of things. And the other is very, very few of the mothers we met stay close to the school. And so it's a time thing as well. So there are opportunities that we can say, this is our school. We sponsor this school in Honduras, and we've got a chance to do something great to help them even more, above and beyond what we commit to each year, something that would be done once, right, and be done with it. And so there'll be more information to come through with that. What I want to answer, too, is why such a small group, and why was it not offered to everybody all at one time? And I'm glad you asked that question. Because there's a few reasons. Number one, we were told in the initial discussions with Phil that we can only take about 4 to 5 people. Any more than that is going to drastically increase the cost because the Lunches for Learning team rents 2 full-wheel drives for what they call their day in the life trip, which is what we went to, where normally we see even more schools, but Mindy and Mike and Maria and myself connected at every school that the church sponsored and Enterprise Rotary sponsored, and we stayed a little longer than the norm at the schools, and not me or Maria talking too much to a group of people, I know. But we were able to go and see all these different schools pretty quickly, see a life of the kids, a life of the program, see how it works, see where they keep their storage, and see, the schools that we support, right? That we've committed this. We've been able to put our eyes and hands on it, meet the kids and the teachers. But because of that, if we had to add any more four-wheel drives, it increases the operation cost so much. And there's a limitation because they only have 3 team members in Honduras for 2,000 children. They have Jessica, who works in the capital in Tegucigalpa, works from home. She does all the logistics. They got Ramon and Junior that live around the Nacaome area, and the 2 of them are responsible for deliveries, checking in on the food and all that for over 2,000 children, 46 schools across Honduras in the region that they cover. So they're very, very limited with staff. So if they had one staff member per vehicle, it's only 3 vehicles, which means that it's less than 12 people that we could feasibly take with us on that trip. So there's a lot of logistics, a lot of planning that would have to go into that. And what I didn't want to do was say, hey, we've got this opportunity to go to Honduras, support Lunches for Learning, and have 35 people commit to say yes, and we can only take 5. So the few folks that I asked to go, Maria Warren, who is from Honduras. You don't know Maria, Harrison and Forrest Warren, Miss Sheila Warren. Maria is Forrest's wife, and just a great lady, and she's from Honduras, and so I knew she would have some deep appreciation for the trip. Mindy Collier, who just rolled off our finance committee chair, she's in the traditional choir, and she also is a part of Enterprise Rotary, which also supports the school and Lunches for Learning. And Mike Cranick, and Mike is a youth parent and a young adult in the church, and just a great leader and great friend of mine, and a great lover of Christ. And I asked him to go, and I knew he would get a lot out of the trip, and myself, and we had gone down, and so part of the main reason was logistics, both on their end and ours, of what we could feasibly do for the first trip. And the other is, this trip is not a standard mission trip. Your standard mission trip, you go to a place far away or close, or whatever it may be, and you build a project, right? You build a well, you go and help build houses or put on roofs, or you go and preach in a series of churches, or whatever it may be. Well, Lunches for Learning isn't set up for that, and there's a lot of reasons why. And I really think this is healthy, and I think this is biblical. One of the reasons that is such an issue of what we call short-term mission trips, and what you may hear as Toxic Charity is a famous book. When Helping Hurts is another one. And a lot of times when churches come in and they build a well, like in When Helping Hurts, it tells a story of a group that went in and built a well in Africa, and also brought in a whole bunch of crops. Well, it turns out what they did is they didn't provide all of the parts for the well, and didn't teach anybody how to fix it. And the farmers had an uprising, because now all of a sudden they can't sell their crops because the community has an over influx of fresh crops. All good intentions, but what they have done now is they put a well in that no longer works because no one knows how to use it or has the equipment to fix it. And a way of life for a large group of people is no longer a feasible way to make a living and support their family, because instead of helping provide them with seeds or with other things, we've instead just given them everything that they need, and no one buys from the local farmers. And so in Honduras, the issue would be, let's say if we decided to go down and build a kitchen. Well, that wouldn't be a great issue, but think about it this way. If the same amount of money we spend on products to build a kitchen, we hire someone in Honduras to do it. Lunches for Learning would manage that. We buy Honduran materials. Then not only are we putting money back into those families, and most of the time it's the fathers of the children that would take that project on, but we are supporting those families and giving them even greater buy-in. Because instead, we would go in and do that work, and all of a sudden, we would keep someone out of a job. And it doesn't seem like it. I'll say this. Phil and I had this discussion where I think so often we get caught up in this matching T-shirt ideal, where everybody puts on their matching T-shirts and hop on an airplane and go to some third world country and do some work, take a bunch of pictures, and we've done our part of Acts 1:8 of going to share the gospel across the world. Have we? Have we, or have we just created more problems? Have we gone down there and really shared the gospel and made transformation occur in the name of Jesus? Or have we come in and just injected that with the most Americanized 7 days they've ever experienced, and then left, never to go back again? When I went to Romania in college, we hopped off the airplane in Bucharest, hopped in the car with Christy Kivu and another gentleman. And before they even put the car in drive, they turned around and said, we don't, when we share the gospel, we believe in discipleship. We don't ask anyone to bow their heads and raise their hands and anything with an emotional connection or tie. And I was intrigued. And I said, well, why is that? I said, I don't disagree with you. I said, I just want to know why. And they said in the villages where they were working with the gypsies, they had a denomination of churches come through and establish some churches, but they never trained pastors to take them over. They built the churches, came in and worshiped and left. And what they did is they came in and said, if you want hope and light and Jesus, come give your life to him. And they did. They tracked their numbers and they hit the jet plane and went home. And they did not disciple, did not put any pastors or leaders in place to continue that discipleship. And so the indigenous Romani people, what we would call the gypsies, are very, very emotional. And so when things got tough, they left the faith and made it very difficult for the church leaders we were with trying to disciple and grow churches in the villages outside of Bucharest and really make disciples, because someone's good intentions to just come in and then turn around and leave. And that experience taught me that perhaps we get it wrong thinking that that when we go to a third world country to share the gospel, that the greatest way to do that is to take our Americanized version of it in there. When we were in Honduras, every school we went to had clear teaching of the Bible. Every school we went to had Jesus somewhere on the walls. Every student would bow their heads to pray. They all knew the Lord's Prayer. They all knew about Jesus. In every corner, even in the mountains, there was an evangelical church somewhere that we would find. Their faith is a clear part of who they are. So what exists there for us with missions for our church? That's one of the other reasons that we took such a small group, was so we could have some discernment to go in and say, listen, it's not really healthy for us to say we're going to bring 25 people in here and do all these building projects for them, because that takes away jobs from a family. What happens if we're not able to finish it in that time frame? And let's just be honest, if I said, hey, church, we need to go build a kitchen in Honduras, it would probably take us anywhere from 3 to 6 months to get all that put together, a group down there, and build it. Where we could just call Lunches for Learning and say, we want to sponsor 2 kitchens for X amount of money. And in 2 to 3 months, the project's completed at both schools, and it's done by their families. But the other thing is we wanted to discern what is feasible. For example, doing a backyard Bible school, going down for a week or a 4-day trip, and either during the school hours or after school, working it with the teachers of the 2 schools that we sponsor to play some games and share the gospel and make a fun VBS type of event for them, something they've never experienced, and really have a good time with the kids and pour into them. That's more of what we could do with that consistent understanding of this is schools that we sponsor where our investment is as a church, our heart and our ministry, because we never want to do harm. If you remember from your confirmation class, there were 3 rules that Wesley lived by: do no harm, always do good, and always stay in love with God. And that's not just for our practical daily life, but also for the mission of the church and the mission of the church universal. That in the way we do missions, we don't want to seek to do harm, which means, for example, if you've ever been to a third world country, the way they drive is very different than America. Okay, I've been to 3 different third world countries. All 3 of them drive different than one another and way different than America. And every one of them also have different cuisines that are theirs, different ways of life, different ways that you show respect, different ways that you run the risk of offending another person, everything. And so when we come into another culture as guests, we have to be aware of that. And so when we consider missions, we have to be conscientious of not doing harm, of doing what is the most good and of doing what brings the most glory to God in a way we stay in love with him. So I have to be very cautious. So all in all, this trip was by all means a great success in a way that members of our church, laity of our church, were able to see not only the mission of Lunches for Learning, but where our commitment to support Lunches for Learning isn't just seen in pictures in a newsletter, but we got to embrace the children that our church is feeding. I got to play soccer and get scored. Schooled. One kid made 3 goals on me in the soccer goal with a little plastic ball with tape around it so they could keep the air in it. And we got to hug them and embrace them. I got to hug the teachers and hear from them about their needs and pray with them. Our folks got a chance to smell the air and eat the food that our church provides through our support to the school. We got to eat. After all the kids had seconds, we got to eat a little bit as well and taste the food to really put our hands and our feet to the work and the mission of what our church is doing and partnering with Lunches for Learning. And it was transformational. But even more so, what it did is it allowed us a chance to see what is feasible for the mission and what's not feasible. What is feasible to take a group of people in the future? What is something we can set up to where we're not talking about a short-term trip here to Nacaome, a short-term trip to Argentina, a short-term trip to Costa Rica, a short-term trip to Haiti or Mexico or wherever, where we can say our church sponsors 2 schools in Honduras. We feed children. We love them and pray for them deeply. And annually or biannually, we take a team or 2 down to do some type of Bible school or some type of fun activity with them that they would never have the opportunity to do without us a week or so at a time. And we needed to see that to figure out what that looked like. So I hope that over the next few months that you'll be in prayer for how opportunities can unfold and come together with Lunches for Learning, but also be in prayer for how our church can continue to invest in those little boys and girls in the villages outside of Nacaome and Grafton that we can see. And so I hope and pray that this has been a joy for you. If you want to see some pictures about our trip, check our Facebook post over the past few days, and we'll have more. Like I said, one of the things that they stress, and I wholeheartedly agree, even children in the backwoods of the villages of Honduras know they're poor. And so we were told explicitly not to take our phones out. It was fine taking pictures as we're driving up and those things, but not to get over there and take a selfie with a child and those sorts of things. It was rude. The children know, and they don't want to feel like a project. They want to be seen. Their culture is extremely relational. They slowed down. It was such beautiful just to be able to slow down to their pace. But a way that we could, a way that our church could really be present with them while we were there. So the Lunches for Learning staff was taking some of the background of us talking to the kids and praying with them and eating their food and hanging out with them, playing soccer and those things. So when we get those pictures, we'll upload them and share them with you. But check our newsletter as well for more info. I wrote an article about it this week in Community Outreach. And I pray that you'll subscribe and share. And as always, make sure that you are praying for Honduras. Make sure you're praying for our church. And make sure that you're finding new ways to know, grow, and go in your faith through the way that our church transforms the world with the good news of Jesus. Thanks for being a part of the Know, Grow, Go podcast. I'm Matt Jordan. Y'all have a great week.